Hey, Dr. Producer Suzanne, so excited to see you here today. So I'm sitting here in Las Vegas and feeling sad. I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling like I'm not doing my part because I'm missing out on that Forward conference going on in Chicago right now.
I know. I think we're both missing out, and we need to figure out a way to find out some more. I think we've got a solution to that today.
I think we do. Let's conjure the spirits from the universe and bring in the incredible Anna Blue, president of the AHLA Foundation, coming at us from the Forward Conference right now. Anna, so great to see you.
It is great to be here. Thank you. This is the only thing that I would step away from this conference for. So thank you very much for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
And thank you for stepping away from the conference. I know what an exciting event it is right now. Like I said, I feel terrible. I'm not there, but duty calls, and I had to be here. Next year, though, Anna, let's make it so we can do some broadcasting live from that event. But before we worry about all that kind of stuff, tell me a little bit about what's going on with the conference, why it's so essential to the industry, and how you guys have made it reality.
Yeah, so ForWard is the AHLA Foundation's initiative to elevate and celebrate and champion all the incredible women in our industry. And this is the annual conference. So this is actually what started it all. This started back in 2018 with about 175 people gathered in 2018. Fast forward all these years, minus a couple of COVID years. This is our 5th year, and we have nearly 1,000 people gathered here for ForWard. Isn't that nuts? That's the growth. 600 last year.
That's
This year, yeah.
That's so big. I could have just lied and told you I was there. You never would have known.
That's true. We know when you're here, Glenn. So, no, it has been truly incredible. Our theme this year is storytelling, and it's really about what we're calling writing the narrative. So making sure that we are adding and amplifying the incredible stories of women leaders in our industry. We often hear the same industry stories told over and over, and they're great stories, don't get me wrong, but we're missing some. And so we've already heard such incredible folks up on stage talking about their journey, sharing their passion for hospitality, talking about how, pivotal moments and how they got into this. And we're using this moment to amplify and share stories. And it is awesome. This energy is like nothing else.
Wow, that's awesome. Suzanne?
Well, I'd love to know what your ratio or your mix of between having male allies and females in the audience and what that energy is like.
It's great. Some of the best guys are here. I'm not gonna lie. We've got them in the front row.
They're not all there.
Not all there. We are missing a critical piece to the puzzle right now. I'll say it's still only about 10% men. The women are out here in strength. I think this is the one moment also that's critical for women to be able to just feel like this is our space. And
Right.
that space is why we do this. There is such a need for this moment and that to come in. But we also love to see the incredible men that are here that are champions for the women in the workplace, for the women in the industry that are always show up. They always show up for ForWard, even when it's not, a conference or there isn't this moment. They're the ones that are continuing to say, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this. I need this in my company. We need to be talking about this. And I'm so grateful for that.
So what are some of the things that people are doing, learning, and experiencing while they're at the Forward Conference?
Yeah. So we started this morning talking about industry disruptors. And we had, Jen Collins from Procure Impact and Tracy Prigmore She Has a Deal and Julianne Smith. So like kind of the best, the coolest.
She's the Chief Development Officer with IHG.
Yeah. And the AHLA Foundation board chair. So we just had this incredible, start of people talking about disruption and innovation and those key moments in our lives, especially as women, where we fail or we have an idea, but we're not sure our idea is going to be heard, but we know that it could change things for the better, and just how they've all done that in their career. Mark Hoplamazian, CEO of Hyatt, of course, we're here in Chicago, so we're in Hyatt's backyard. He came out and instead of being the one interviewed, as we typically see with CEOs, he did the interviewing. And He talked to some young rising leaders in the industry across all spectrums of the industry and really got into why this is the industry for them and what those key moments in their career have been. And it was just, it's so inspiring. And he was all in it. A couple of times he was like, I'm going to steal that. That's great. I'm going to take that. So
Love
that's
it.
what everybody's learning, no matter where we are in our career. Now folks are at breakouts, which is why I can step away briefly. And we have Milena Regos. She's not from the industry, but she is the unhustle expert. And I love talking about this because we live in this hustle culture, right? Like we are all go, go, go. We're trying to be in 7 places at one time. People are getting burnt out. Stress levels are high. And so she has created this movement called Unhustle. And it's about how you can be equally, if not more productive without any of that stress and that sort of hustle mentality. And so she has a packed house right now.
Yeah, I kind of wish I was there for that one in particular.
Yeah, exactly. So they're in breakouts right now. We've got Kevin Jacobs, AHLA's board chair, who's with Hilton coming up this afternoon. We have Zainab Johnson, actress and comedian. She's going to do a conversation with our interim president and CEO, Kevin Carey, this afternoon. So it's just, there's so much, there's just so much good stuff happening.
So from the time that this event was created back in 2018 to 2024 today, how do you see the progress that's been made, and where are we in terms of benchmarking?
You know, I'm fairly new. So this is my second ForWard. I came into the industry 15 months ago from a background in social impact and sort of social change, and moving the needle forward. And I keep hearing that the industry has actually come a long way. I came from a gender equity space. So I'll be honest, my first ALICE was January of last year. And I stood outside of the AHLA's meeting room and looked down over the lobby, over this sea of lovely gentlemen in blue blazers. It's like there is a uniform in this industry. I kid you not. And I thought, where are the women? And I actually said it out loud. And everything that I heard on stage this morning is there's already been so much progress made. And now we're seeing, we had the Hunter Conference just last month, and we were over 50% women on stage. That's huge. So I think there's still a huge need, and ForWard is now regional events, and we are quickly expanding, but the industry is responding. And that's the coolest part of it, is that the industry is saying, you're right. So let's join together and let's do something about it, and let's move the needle. And that's the coolest part about this.
Yeah. One of the cool things is this is not an issue of competition, but it's every single major company, I feel at this point, has made distinct efforts to make strides to bring equity and equality to all people within their organizations, which I absolutely love. But Anna, I'm old school, meaning that I'm just old. And when I first started going to events like ALICE, for example, there could have been, at no exaggeration, no hyperbole, maybe 5 or 6 women out of 1,000 men.
That's what I hear. It is what I hear.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. But then, honestly, conversely, you go to HD Expo is taking place here right now, and there's a much higher percentage of women, for example. But we need to have equality and equity on all areas of our business. And yesterday, I had the honor of speaking, doing a keynote speech for PM Hotel Group, and I learned that 57% of their team are made up of women. It's the first time I've heard something like that. That's so cool. So we're making strides as an industry. It's real. What do you hope to be able to achieve through this conference and moving forward?
So to piggyback on that data point, I'm really glad you asked this question with that lead in. So our industry's workforce, the hotel industry workforce, is 55% women.
What? Overall, 55%?
Overall, 55%.
Wait, hold on. Does that includes all parts of the property?
Yeah, property, corporate, all the rungs. And so that's so interesting, because the reason folks are oftentimes surprised is because of who we see representing our industry.
Right.
In leadership, it's not 55%, right? So that's what we're working towards, is really that equity, that all those places where there are some broken rungs, where we're seeing women get stuck, where we're seeing, at director level in our industry, we are at equity 50-50, men and women, and that's awesome. By the time we're at CEOs, we're in single digits.
Correct.
There's a gap. And so that's really what ForWard is about, is just reminding folks in our industry of the incredible women who are waiting for these leadership opportunities, and who are seizing them, and who are excited and ready and prepared, so that as we think about succession planning, as we think about what's next for our companies, that we can make sure we are thinking about everyone equally.
Yep. Suzanne?
Well, we just had a commencement at FIU this past weekend, and the majority of all the students walking across our stage in the Chapel School of Hospitality was females. And that's a tradition that we're seeing across most of the hospitality programs. So this has been a long sought after opportunity, having been a female general manager in the city of Boston, of one of few, and I was amongst those sea of blue jackets as like the one or two in terms of females. It's a real important piece that we really start to see the women start to persist higher in that level of leadership, and that truly is where the gap is. So what is the strategic vision that you see for the conference moving forward to continue your expansion and your messaging?
Yeah, so we've already this year, we've piloted some regional events in certain cities. We've done 2 more. We actually have one Thursday of this week. So we finished Forward on Wednesday, and then we go back to DC and do one Thursday morning. So I'll tell you, the first one we did was in Atlanta. We sent the invite out. This was in February, about 10 days before. We set success that if we have 50 people show up, this is great. We had 300 women show up with 10 days out an invite. And we even heard a woman stood up and she said, I drove from Memphis. It was a 90-minute program. It wasn't a whole day. It wasn't a summit. It was a 90-minute program. She drove from Memphis and she said, because this space doesn't exist where I am. And I needed to be in this space. And so we were like, all right, we cracked a code. Now we know. And so we brought regional events. We did one in Columbus and a very similar thing. The room was absolutely packed. We've got DC coming up this week, and then we have 3 more throughout this year. And now we're thinking about taking kind of this event and then doing it in regions, because not everybody can get to Chicago. Not everybody can, nobody from Choice is here because Choice has another event going on. So how do we make sure
where I am now, which is why I'm not.
So how do we make sure that we can include everybody and that we can bring this to people who can't necessarily be here or whose companies don't have the funds? You can't send every woman or man in your company to Forward. So we want to make sure. So I think that's what's next for us is bringing this to more places so that more people can engage in this space, because there is very much a need. That's how you go from 175 people to 5 events later, almost 1,000 people, is because there is a need that we're filling.
Right. And to be fair, as a 50-something white male person, I've always had a group of people around me that were like me, that were more likely to give me opportunities just because you hang out with people like you and you get to know them. Well, I think that this is such a great opportunity for women to have that kind of clubbiness and that connection, which will allow people to get along a little bit further because they'll be inside that consideration zone, is what I would call it, right? And how do we get people there to break into people's minds in order to do that? And that's why I love what this particular program is all about. So, Anna, the one question that I always have is, how do we get women to be more on the C-suite level when, and this is why it's so complicated to me, and I've asked this before, when women have been denied opportunities for so long and have been kind of pushed into specific roles in our society, and therefore don't have the decades of experience behind them, which a lot of times necessitates, you need that in order to get these C-suite level positions, right? Yeah. So how are you working through that puzzle? What is a realistic time frame here to kind of reach that sense of 50-50-ness in the C-suite?
Amazing. I don't know the time frame. I mean, people really do need to get on board, and it's a mindset shift and it's a system shift about where people belong, right? So as you just said, certain roles, I mentioned by the time we're at CEO, it might be in the single digits. However, 64% of hotel industry CHROs, of human resource officers, are women. So there's this expectation that if you're going to let a woman in the C-suite, then she's the people person, right? Like that's the nurturing, the mother.
Right, or the head of sales and marketing or something like that. Exactly. Or then design, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, exactly. It's not necessarily the CFO or the CEO or the COO. So making sure that people understand that that we are looking at the soft skills and we're looking at the hard skills and all of that. And it's not a specific gender that is better at math or better at people, that actually there are some really
women are better at math these days based on testing scores and stuff.
That's very fair. We all have calculators. You don't need math. And we have ChatGPT. We don't need to do anything at this point. We're just here. But as you mentioned, Suzanne, the students, the vast majority, like you said, that are coming out of hospitality schools are young women, and we're losing them. And sometimes we're losing them. We have 8 students here with us this week that are from HBCUs, And when they look around and they see this, that's incredible. When we bring them to Hunter, or we bring them to some of these, to Alice, to the other industry conferences, if they don't see themselves, if they don't see, and these are young women of color, if they don't see themselves represented, do you go to a different industry where maybe it looks different? So we have an obligation to tap talent early and to really inspire them and show them what those career paths can be. Every time I talk to young people, they care about two things. They care about organizational culture. So we have to make sure that we are answering that call. They want something different than any of us did, or that we knew to ask for when we came into the workplace. I wish people were talking about DEI when I came into the workplace. So they want that, but then they also want to know what that career path could be for them. They're not expecting a handout like this. I think there's a false myth about young people and their sense of entitlement. They don't want to start as CEOs, but they want to know it's possible. And they want to know what the work is and how they could possibly get there. And I think if we want to keep people and we want to work towards equity, we need to really start having those conversations at a young age and then carve the path. We can't get them to a stop sign and then walk away, because then they're going to take their talent someplace else.
Great point.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just back up and just point out to our viewers, HBCUs are historically Black colleges and universities. And so that is an important place in this conversation. But I would also say that culture piece is really important, because one of the things that I'm seeing, and I continue, once a student is mine, I think I had seen a meme recently, my students become my kids because of the nurturing that I give you for the length of time. And you become my kids for life. And I have former students and graduates that will reach out to me from all my institutions. And one of the challenges that I see a lot is that culture piece within hospitality. They might get in with a company that they think was the right fit. It's not the right fit. And the piece that I'm trying to walk them through is explore another company within the same mindset of hospitality, because some of them are just putting the stop sign up and saying, no, it's not for me and I'm leaving, as opposed to trying. And so this is a grander conversation as well, from an HR perspective and inclusiveness of culture for all of our organizations, to do it right when they hire and really show those paths and open up those communication levels. Because to your point, they're not looking for that sense of entitlement. They're looking for, I think, more of that open communication. Yeah. And when they're not seeing it, I don't know that they're still really talking enough with their supervisors about it. Their easier path is, let me just step aside and let me find something different, and then leaving the industry. So
yeah, and I'll give an example. We recently brought a student from the hospitality program at Penn State to a meeting that we had with industry leaders so that they could hear from him what this new generation is thinking about and wants as they think about our industry in particular. And they asked him, what is the single thing that you care about the most, that you're paying the most attention to when you come into the industry? And he said organizational culture. And he had his own definition of that and talked through it. And 3 people in this group all said to him, don't ask about culture. That's a red flag. And not everybody felt that way. And it led to a conversation. But afterwards, I met up with him later, lovely guy who's now actually been recruited by somebody in that room, which is awesome. And he said, you know what? It was fine. I just know that those aren't companies I want to work for now. And it was just so clear that, like, in that moment, them responding in that way, he was like, okay, cool. You're not for me. Your company is not for me if this is the thought of leadership. But we have to change that mindset. Like, we are living in a world where culture matters. And I know that for some people that's triggering and they think, oh, I don't know how to answer that question. Or what if I offend somebody? There are a lot of hot buttons around it, but we have to figure out how to respond to that, or we will lose folks who are interested in this industry.
Yeah, very well said. We definitely need to all rally around together with that. And the good news is that so many companies out there, particularly with management companies, not to the exclusion of everyone else, but I spend a lot of time with management companies. They're all very highly focused these days on that culture aspect. And all of these companies that are forward thinking are very much in terms of, let's rise people up. Let's give them stay interviews to learn a little bit about what opportunities they're looking for, what's their career path, and then kind of crafting programs in order to create success for each of those human beings. It's a great time to be in the hospitality industry. no matter what your background is, that's become self-evident with events such as ForWard taking place right now in Chicago. And anything that we missed or any final thoughts before we let you get back down there? We don't want you to miss anything.
No, I'm just very excited to have this opportunity to share this in the midst of what we're doing, right? Like it's happening right now. And thank you for letting me share about it. I'm so excited to be here, and we'll get you both here next year or to one of our regional events. We're on the road now, so you'll come out just so you can soak up the power of ForWard, because it is pretty incredible.
Yeah, I love it. Anna, thanks so much. We really appreciate you being here. Suzanne, one quick takeaway before we wrap up. What are you taking away?
Listen, I am really excited to see the number of individuals attending in terms of that interest, because to me, that is showing that they truly are filling that gap within the industry. And I've actually had my colleagues and a couple other industry people saying, Suzanne, are you going to be at ForWard this week? And clearly I'm not. But definitely it's something that I'm putting on my radar for next year to try and figure out how to make it happen, or even a regional. So.
Yep. All right. Excellent. Make sure you reach out to the AHLA to learn more. And while you're at it, why not follow us? Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, watch us wherever you like to watch your videos. LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and of course, all shows are at novacancynews.com. All new website coming tomorrow or the day after. You know how these things go with.
Wow, we're actually into this week now? Awesome.
It was supposed to be yesterday, then today. I'm really thinking it's tomorrow right now. But if I say that for the next 6 months, then you'll know exactly what's going on. All right, everybody. See you later. Remember, we got one life, so blaze on and
Follow your passion.
see you later, everyone.